Tysen, you ready to start the show? You've been looking bulkier, man. You're looking pretty good. Have you been working out a little more? Yeah, I bet, bro. You're looking a little swole, more swole. The bulking's been working, bro. Keep on eating and stuff. You know what I'm saying? You ready to start the show?
God damn, Jimmy, this some serious gourmet shit.
He peed on my rug.
Miss Walker.
It's impossible. Don't you understand?
Why?
Hey, Mom, we get some meatloaf.
Sweet.
What about mine?
Dude, what does mine say?
Sweet. The show goes on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Broc, Gardner versus the World. This is episode 83, I think, which is insane that we've made it this far. I really thought this podcast would last maybe 2 weeks, and then now all of a sudden it's lasted. I think we're coming up on 2 years of this show, and we took a couple months off in between. Sometimes we weren't really as consistent. I've been going consistently for a year, but the show itself has been around for 2 years in 1 month, which is crazy, dude. Time really flies when you're having fun, when you're making stuff that you enjoy. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me through this. It's kind of crazy. And next goal is kind of episode 100, dude. That's in 17 episodes, so it'll be like the start of next year or whatever. And I might just take the whole month of January off, to be honest, dude. Because this whole year, ever since I've been doing this podcast by myself, which was September of last year is when I started doing that, I haven't missed a week of uploading a podcast, and I don't intend to miss a week. But at the start of the year, I was like, one of my New Year's resolutions, or I don't call them that, they're just goals. One of my goals for the year was release a podcast every single week of that year. So this year, I haven't missed a podcast, and we only have 3 months left? October, November. Wait, what month is it? No, yeah, 3 months left. October, November, December. And so, if I might reward myself and just take the whole month of January off and then hit it in February and go from there. But we'll see. I probably won't. I'll probably end up just keep doing podcasts. But anyways, another thing, our TikTok, the first TikTok to go really viral, hit 100K views, which was wild. It hit 10,000 likes too, which is crazy. Like, obviously it's not like something insane. Like, even if you get 1 million views, it's not even that crazy anymore. But for me, it was like really cool because it was like I planned on that happening. Like, most of the time when people are like, oh, this TikTok went viral, is like an accident. But I was like, okay, I've seen how I've made like these clips from the podcast work on this level, and so I'm gonna try that and combine all this knowledge that I have gained over the years, and this clip is gonna work. I know that. And so I put the clip out there and it worked, and then I did it again and it worked again, not as well. The next one got like 50K. The problem is consistency, dude. I just don't have enough time to make 14 different clips to post consistently throughout the week. There's enough content in the podcast to post that much, but I just can't find the time to make clips, and that's my fault, dude. That's my fault. My priorities are just out of whack, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying to get as many TikTok clips out there because that helps the podcast more than anything. And so if you guys are new, we've been getting new followers from TikTok a little bit. So if you guys are new here to the podcast, be sure to subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple and Spotify, leave a 5-star review. And, write something cool, something nice if you like the podcast. If you didn't, what your thoughts are. And drop a like on the YouTube as well, comment. All that stuff helps us tremendously. So if you want to support the podcast, which I know that most of you guys do because you're so sweet, you're such sweet humans, that's the ways that you can do it. And also sharing. Sharing is caring, especially when it comes to online media. But today, me and Tysen have a couple topics. This is kind of an impromptu podcast. I usually record these on Monday, or no, not Monday. Opposite. I usually record these on Wednesday or Thursday and post them whenever I can at the end of the week. But it's Monday at 9 a.m. right now, which at this time on most weeks, I would have no podcast planned at all. I usually plan them like literally hours before. So we're just kind of, flying by the seat of our pants, which I learned recently is seat of our pants, not seed of our pants. I don't know what the seed of our pants means, but that's what I always thought it was. And so, you learn something new every day. I'm going to Boston. So this is why we're recording so early, is because I'm going to Boston on Wednesday morning. And so that means the 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, that I have free are filled with everything else I'd be doing during the week. So I'm gonna, we're crunching, dude. And what was the first thing I did? What was the first thing I did out of all that stuff? Record the podcast, dude. That shows you how dedicated I truly am to this show. I have so much stuff to do, so much homework, yet I choose to do this podcast first and neglect all that. And will it bite me, later? Yeah. Could I have been working on this stuff because I've known that I've been going on this trip for, months? Could I have been working on this stuff last week so that I didn't have as much in these 2 days? Yes, I could have. But your boy's all about instant gratification, and, we'll worry about the rest later. So now I'm going to be doing homework in Boston. But I'm going to Boston on Wednesday with my parents, and it should be pretty fun. It's kind of like my senior trip. We were going to do it in the summer, but it was like, you know what? If you're going to Boston, you got to go in the fall and see all the leaves and all the, it's just a different vibe in the fall. We're planning on seeing Joe Rogan. The whole trip is kind of up in the air, I feel like. It's been up in the air since we thought of the idea because of COVID. Like, we're like, we might not even be able to travel, number one. Like, things change because nowadays things change so frequently. There could be a new vaccine mandate to get on, the planes, and your boy's not vaxxed. Nothing against the vax. I just haven't had to get it yet. I'm just waiting until I absolutely have to get it. Nothing against it, and don't come at me, okay? Buzz off, bro. Do your thing. I don't care. Or stuff with masks or anything like that. And so, you guys know how frequently stuff is changing. So this trip has just kind of always been up in the air. And then it was yesterday, I was like, oh, are we going? Are we actually going on the plane and stuff? So that's how this has all been. So it's just been kind of a mess. And I don't really know what we're doing there. But I don't really care what we're doing, I'm just trying to go because I've always wanted to go to Boston and just that side of the United States. And that's the one place I haven't been yet. So I'm really excited. We'll be in Boston for most of the time. I think we're going to go to Philadelphia. We're going to hit New York for a couple hours because New York is highly overrated, I feel like. There's not that much to see in New York. It's I want to go see the Statue of Liberty. Maybe go see the 30 Rock, what is it called? Times Square. Go get some street food and then head on out. There's no need to stay there. So I was like, well, let's just go for a couple hours. It's not a big deal. And plus, I just don't like cities. We were in Vegas yesterday for 2 hours and I was freaking out. I get so anxious in cities. I don't know why. So then we're going to from there, I think we're going to DC. And so we'll have all of Sunday to go check out DC, and then we'll fly home that night. It's a really quick trip. Literally Wednesday, we're flying there, and that'll take up most of our day, and then Sunday we're flying home. So it's a quick little. We're gonna try and fit everything in, but it should be fun, and hopefully I'm gonna maybe bring my camera and try and do some video stuff so we can drop something next week. A little Boston vlog with my fam. But yeah, so that's why we're doing this podcast, and that's why it might be pretty short, because your boys, we don't have that much topics. I got 3 topics on here because I'm so ill prepared and I have so much else to do that you know what, this is what you're gonna get, bro. This is the podcast you signed up for. And if you don't like this episode, you can just leave and go listen to last week's episode, because the last week's episode was one of my favorite episodes. What did you think of last week's episode? Yeah, dude. I thought it was so funny. I've listened to it like 3 times already. There's so many good bits in that podcast. So go listen to the last number 82, Red Bull, sponsored by Red Bull, I think is what it's called. Very funny, very good podcast. You know, this one's going to be kind of lackluster because we're short on time and content, but here we go. So yesterday, Sunday, was National Boyfriend Day, you know? And so every single chick that has a boyfriend posts about their boyfriend, happy National BF Day, you know? And so it gets kind of repetitive, kind of annoying, as all things on social media do. They get very repetitive because everyone's posting the same thing. And, you know, and so my brother's kind of like, oh, dude, this is my favorite day because you, like, know which girls to unadd on Snapchat. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's pretty smart. But the thing is, the funny thing, so this is why I bring this up, dude. Not trying to say anything at all. You know, I'm just putting this, I just observe this, and I'm just putting it out there. Many of the chicks that posted about their boyfriends on National Boyfriend Day, I've added through Mutual and Tinder in the last month. So, boys, I know this is I've got some girl viewers, but I know this is kind of a boy central, you know, audience. Fellas, be wary, because I'll repeat, many of the girls that posted about their boyfriends on National Boyfriend Day, I added through Tinder and Mutual in the last month. Within the last month, they have been on Tinder and Mutual and have given me their Snapchat. Not my fault, all right? Not my fault. Just a heads up, be aware, all right? And women, cut it out, bro. Cut it out. You can't be on Tinder and Mutual if you're going to have a boyfriend. Especially if it's a serious enough relationship where you post it on your Snapchat story. That's where things get really messy. You know? So, you know, just be a little aware. Just be kind of wary. Some of these women, and men too, obviously men too, but some of these women can get a little sneaky in the grass, you know what I'm saying? Couple of snakes in the grass, that's what some of these girls are. So here's a story. I work at a soda shop in this fine city of St. George, a fairly popular one in the state. If you live in Utah, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to say, even though I said it in a past episode, I'm done saying where it is because, you know, it could potentially get me in trouble. So I'm working at this place, and one of the things we have to do is every like couple hours, one of us goes out, and it's called like a line buster. So you go, because there's always a line at this place, and you go and you take this iPad out and you take people's orders as they're in line, so the people in there can start working on the stuff, and it just makes the whole thing go smoother. And so this particular hour, I was outside, and you know, just taking orders, going about my day, and this guy in like a crappy car. I'm not trying to be a douche. I don't know why I said that. This guy in a car pulls up into the drive-thru, and I didn't really pay much attention to him. But then I was taking this order, and the shop that I work at is right next to like this shady auto shop. This shady auto shop where cars have been there for ages and ages. It's just a full parking lot. It feels like they never are actually working on stuff. I've heard lots of stories about, you know, horror stories about people who took their vehicles there. And they just like, I think they just use it as like a party house. Because every time I'm leaving on like weekends, they're always just partying over there. But anyways, so there's this auto shop that these two guys were working at. And I heard them talking to this guy that was in line, and they were like, yo, buddy, you got an effing problem? You got a fucking problem? Like, you taking pictures, you got a fucking problem? So I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't have time for this. And so the person that I'm taking their order, like, drives away. And so this guy's next in line, but he's duking it out with these guys at the auto shop. And so I go over there. I'm like, yo, can I take your order? And the guys that work for the auto shop are like, yo, we're calling the cops, bro. And so they go and they're like, start calling the police or whatever. And so I take the guy's order, and he's like, you know, doesn't even care because obviously he has bigger problems now. And so I take the guy's order. He goes and pays. And all of a sudden, dude, I'm still taking orders. Like, it's so strange because it's this little tiff. So the guys thought that he was taking pictures of their auto shop, which he probably was. He seemed like a really smug. I don't know why he would be doing that, but he definitely seemed guilty of doing that. And, you know, the guys at the auto shop aren't, you know, they're no peaches either. So both parties involved were a little shady. And so the auto shop guys thought this guy was taking pictures of their car. And so they got into a little tiff, and so they called the cops on this guy, and this guy goes and parks, and he's waiting for the cops. And so one cop shows up, and they're like talking to him, and then all of a sudden another cop shows up, and they're talking to him, and all of a sudden, I'm out here still taking orders, all of a sudden 4 more cops come. So there's a total of 6 cops in this parking lot for this battle between 3 guys. Like, I feel like it wasn't that big of a deal. Are cops like, you know, I'm not trying to bag on anybody, but are cops like really bored? Because it seemed like it wasn't as big of a deal, and there could have been like 2 cops maximum. I would understand why there would need to be 2 cops, but there were 6 cops, and one of them was literally just sitting there, like in his car. I'm like, where are you coming from? What do you got to do? Just go. And they're like blocking the drive-thru. It's like, dude, like, obviously respect to the police, back the blue and everything, but you know, there's no need to have 6 cops at a little tiff like that. So I just thought that was funny. That was interesting. Story that happened to me at the and I said it, and I said the place, and I'm gonna have to cut that out now. So I also went on a date on Friday. I haven't gone on that many dates since I've been here because everybody I've met is like an extreme moron. And also, I don't have that much time. But I went on a date with this chick that I kind of knew before. I had like hung out with her in like a group setting. And then I was just like, yo, you want to go on a date? And like, you know, I'm terrible at planning dates too. This is the thing. I'm awful at planning dates. And I apologize to anybody that ever has to go on a date with me. I get it like a general idea, but I never like get down to the nitty gritty with it. And so this date that I planned was like a hike. I was just like, let's go for this hike. And so I had like 4 hikes like saved, but like I didn't have anything planned out before I picked her up. So I pick her up and I'm like, oh freak, all right, where are we going? What is this? And so I'm panicking, and like I just picked this one random hike, and so we drive. It's like way forever out there, and I miss a couple turns, you know, very embarrassing for me. Miss a couple turns. Got to do some loop arounds, and then we come to this dirt road, and I'm in a 2002 Toyota Camry, and I'm like, oh, what? How was I supposed to know there was this freaking dirt road that we have to drive on for half a mile? And it's already too late to turn back, so I just drive on this dirt road in my Camry for like half a mile, acting as a side-by-side, as an off-road vehicle. And then we like start doing this hike, and I'm like in charge, you know, I forget I'm in charge sometimes. And so like I have the map and everything, and we missed the turn to go to like the trail to this thing we're trying to get to. And we like walk on this other trail for like half a mile. And I'm like, I wonder if we're going the right way. And I check, and we're way off course. So we have to cut through this like prairie. But it was actually really beautiful, dude. There's a lot of beautiful scenery here in sunny St. George. It was like this beautiful like valley, and there was like some cool like red rock mountains, and I'm just like, wow, this is really sick. And so we cut across this valley, and then we're like, oh, we'll cut across this valley and go right to this trail. Just hop right back onto the trail. And so we are like approaching the trail, and all of a sudden, instead of a trail, there's a massive canyon. And so instead of like going around, we just went straight down into the canyon and just walked through the canyon, and ended up getting back on the trail somehow. And we didn't even make it, because here's another thing. The trail said it was 4 miles long, but then I look at it and it's 4 miles one way and 4 miles back. So I don't do enough research. And so we ended up walking like 8 miles, but we didn't make it quite to the thing, because we were trying to get to this certain point, but we got close to it, and it started getting like it was pitch black. Like we started walking, and it started getting dark, but as soon as we like got close to it, it was like pitch black. And we're like climbing over rocks and stuff, and I'm hearing hearing sounds, dude, because we're in the desert, you know? There's rattlesnakes. There's so many different beasts. We're hearing stuff in the bushes. We saw a coyote, and so I was like, bruh, like, we better, like, turn around, because I don't want to, like, step on a rattlesnake and get bitten and then have to, like, try and get out of here, because there's no service either. And so we turn around, and then we had to walk 4 miles through this canyon in the pitch black, and I felt really pretty bad, because I don't know, like, I'm cool with stuff like that. Like, I enjoy stuff like that, but, like, I never know if other people are, like, having a good time. And I felt like I learned a lot about the chick, and so yeah, I felt like it was successful, but I just, you know, I never know how the other person is feeling about stuff. So that was my date experience this week. Let's talk about the Sapiens book, dude. I started reading this book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And it's a brief history of humankind. I'm only like 100 pages in, but it's kind of interesting. So I think the whole point of the book is to show how humans went from like these creatures basically to like what it is now, where we build societies and companies and you know, governments and everything. And so I'm really interested in that. And but right now where I'm at is it's just talking about like kind of evolution, which I've never really done a lot of research into. It's like, so like there used to be many species of humans, which was something that I had never heard of. There's like different species of humans that coexisted, but then through like, there's lots of different theories, but through like some way there ended up only being one, and that's what we are now. And it's just talking about like Neanderthals and stuff like that, and like cavemen and how they like lived. And it was really interesting. They would like kill old people and children and stuff, which wasn't cool, but it was interesting how they lived. And then kind of how it's talking about like the farming revolution and the effects of like how people figured out agriculture and what actually, like, you would think it would be a great thing, but apparently it wasn't. And I'm still trying to figure out why. Like, I'm really bad at comprehending stuff. But one of the things that this has made me think about, dude, like the one takeaway I have from this book so far is that like humans evolved in their minds way too fast for like their DNA. And that it talked about that a little bit. This isn't an original thought, but I've kind of like expanded on it in my mind. It's like our brains have evolved way faster than our DNA and our bodies have. So like our bodies, because it takes way long for DNA to evolve, right? And we've created these societies and all these different ideas and religions and stuff, and it's accelerated way faster than like our body and our physical needs could like take. Like they can't catch up. So we're in this weird spot now where our brains are like very evolved and like, well, as far as we know, we're like a super smart society, a super sophisticated society. But like our DNA and our bodies are still the same as like our ancestors thousands of years ago. And so it's kind of interesting. Like I'm thinking about, like, one of the things I've thought about is like marriage. Like marriage is such a strange concept because back in the day, you know, especially in like these times where it was like the what do you call them? What did I just say? Like the cavemen, the Neanderthals. They were like, you know, their DNA was like, you just got to bang whatever you can, just because our DNA is like, just you got to procreate and make kids, you know? And so it's just like animals too. Like they're just trying to, you know, make love to whatever they can so that they can pop out more kids. But then, so that's how we were too. And then all of a sudden we start developing like religion and like structure in society. And then we develop marriage. And it's like we have these ideologies where it's like you get married to this one person and that's it. And you're not supposed to, you know, go outside of that person. But like our DNA, I don't think has caught up with that. And so that's why you have a lot of people that are like, that struggle with marriage, especially now. Like I've met a lot of people that just don't care about, you know, whatever, monogamous relationships or whatever you call it. But I thought that was super interesting. So that's kind of an idea I've been developing, and I can't really remember what the other ones were. But just like the thought of religion, like I have no shade for religion. I am religious, but it's like I've been looking at it a lot different recently, where it's like I've been looking at it from these people's perspective. So they're these people on earth who are kind of gaining consciousness, and they're kind of like developing the ability to learn, and they're starting to ask questions. They're like my mom and dad, you know, they didn't ask any questions. They were just like apes. They didn't really think, but now we're like developing. And so I'm wondering, like, how did I get to this place? You know, questions like that start arising, or like what happens after you die and stuff like that. And so they start just like worshiping these idols and creating this religion around their questions and stuff, so that they have more of like a stable psychology, I guess. Because you know, these are big questions, and they're hard to answer. And so you say stuff like, oh, well, there's a being in the sky and he created us, and then after we die we just go back there, and you know, this is like whatever, you know, whatever religion you believe, you can chalk it up to a lot of psychology and stuff like that. I sound so stupid right now. I need a drink of water. I don't know if any of this is making any sense, but it's like I think a lot of religion is cool, just purely psychologically. And I had this breakthrough kind of when I was moving down here, so I don't think I ever talked about it on this podcast. But I was reading in a book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, by Dale Carnegie, who's the GOAT, dude. Read both of Dale Carnegie's books. I would read that one that I just mentioned, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those books will change your mindset just 100%, and it'll just make your life better, I promise. So in that book, there was like a whole chapter dedicated to religion, and one of the things it talked about was like the power of prayer. So even if you're not religious, you know, this still applies to you, because I'm a person that struggles with, you know, just believing stuff just to believe it. I struggle with religion and a lot of stuff, but this helped put a lot of it into perspective. So it talked about like prayer, and it said that prayer is like one of the most powerful and profound things that a human can do, truly. And this wasn't a religious guru saying this. This is scientists and atheists. This is people that don't believe in a God saying that prayer, purely like psychologically, is one of the most powerful things that a human can do. Because if you do that first thing in the morning, and prayer looks different for everybody, you know. When I pray, it's just, I'm just saying I'm thankful for everything that I'm thankful for. And so depending on how you look at it, you get up in the morning and you take some time out of your morning, first thing you do in the morning, and you just sit there and just list all the things you're thankful for. That's one way you can do it. And if you do that, the rest of your day, you're going to be consciously thinking about those things, and it'll just make you more of a grateful person, if that makes any sense. Or there's another form where, you know, and you can combine all these, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, there's different ways you can pray. And so another thing I was thinking of was, like, it's almost like therapy, where you talk about your problems. You'd be like, I'm going through this. I'm going through this. These are the things I'm struggling with. Because one of the things that this book was talking about was just saying the problems that you're facing is one of the biggest helps in solving those problems. Just putting it into words, putting what you're struggling with into words is like a very good thing to do. So praying, even if you don't believe in a God, and kind of asking for help or guidance or whatever, and just kind of talking through your problems is a very beneficial thing for every single person. You know, so I just thought that was interesting. And there's another thing that I've been thinking about, like the role of Christ. And in my religion, it's the atonement of Christ, you know. So, but the story of Christ is like he died for everyone's sins. And whether or not you believe he's the Son of God or that, you know, he died for your sins or whatever, just the fact of knowing that, like, that the whole point is like that you can be forgiven. So people mess up all the time, and instead of, you know, having all those little mess ups build on your self-conscious and bring you down, the point of a lot of religion is to be like, no, it's cool. Like, you're forgiven. It's all good in the grand scheme of things. Like, you can be forgiven. It's not the end of the world if you mess up. And so that's one of the things that draws people to religion, I feel like. But a lot of people struggle with religious ideas because they don't really understand the point behind them, which is something that I struggled with. Like, growing up in, like, and I'm a Mormon, I'm LDS, kind of, you know, as much as you can be. And a lot of people bag on that, and maybe I'll talk about that because that's something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. But like, growing up in my church, it was like, oh, you don't want to do these things because they're bad and, you know, they make Jesus sad or whatever. And so when I start thinking about them, I'm like, well, what's bad about them? Just because you say so? You know, when you grow up and you're like, you know, I'm just not supposed to do this just because you told me not to. Like, that's kind of messed up. And so you start like you start not trusting the system as much as if they were to tell you like the reasons behind it, if that makes any sense. Like, an example would be like pornography. It's like they say, don't watch porn. It's bad for you. Okay. And when you're a kid, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then when you grow up, you're like, why? Like, I was like, why? What's bad about it? And but after like doing more research and like thinking about it for myself, it's like, oh, number one, you know, not to get into the nitty gritty details, but like it lowers your sex drive. And so you just have no energy to try to talk to real females in real life, and it just makes you bored, you know? It's the same thing with like weed, I feel like. Like, weed isn't inherently bad, but it makes you okay with being where you're at. It kind of keeps you stagnant. And I feel like that's the same thing with like pornography. It keeps you stagnant, and you don't really have the energy or desire to try and better anything. And so I'm like, I wish they would have told me that, you know? But for some reason they don't. And so I feel like that's something that we need to have a conversation about, is giving reasons behind the things that you're saying. And it's like with parenting too. It's the same thing. Like, if you're a parent and you tell your kid, you know, be home at a certain hour, you know, and you just say, like, as a parent, there should never be a reason for you to say just because I told you so. Like, that should never come out of a parent's mouth, I feel like. I'm not a parent, I don't know. But I feel like there should never, ever be a case where it's like, just because I said so, which is kind of the classic, like, parent trope. But it's like, there's always a reason for you to be doing something or saying something or telling your kid to do something. There's always a reason for that, right? And so that's kind of a cop-out answer for people who are just too lazy to actually explain. Like, don't wear your shoes in the house, you know? I always struggle with that. I always wear my shoes in the house. My dad would be like, don't wear your freaking shoes in the house, dude. I'm like, why? It doesn't make any sense. And then once I get to this apartment where people have worn their shoes in the house all the time, I can't walk around because the floors are so dirty because people wear their shoes on the floor. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, obviously, shouldn't wear your shoes you go outside with your shoes and you come in. It basically makes it the outside, you know? But it's like there's reasons behind things that you're saying. So let people know those reasons. And it makes the whole process a lot smoother because people are a lot more apt to kind of listen and trust you if there's like practical reasons to be doing the thing that you're telling them to do, you know? Weird conversations we're having here on the podcast today. with Mormonism, I wrote this topic down one time because it was during like, I don't know, I just see a lot of like ex-Mormon slander on TikTok, and you know, I'm the thing with me is I'm not on either side really. I'm kind of right in the middle. I kind of have just like open ideas, so nobody can bag on me really. But the thing, I've grown up Mormon, you know, and a lot of these people that bag on Mormonism were never Mormon and don't even know what Mormons really believe. You know, they see what people say and then they just kind of regurgitate that, which is a lot of the problem with way more stuff. But with Mormonism, it's like, yeah, there's some nutty stuff that Mormons believe in. There's weird stuff that I don't even know yet. But at the core of this religion, it teaches service, which is the number one thing that I enjoy. It teaches the importance of family and, you know, just being a good person. A lot of the things that it teaches are very practical and applicable, like we were talking about earlier, and can lead to a better life and, you know, keep you on the path of just being truly happy. I believe that. Even if you take all the dogma and religious stuff out of it, at the very core, prayer, serving people, family, the importance of family, those three things right off the bat are proven scientifically through books that I've read that those things make you happier and less worried and less stressed. Then you bring in the word of wisdom, which is something Mormons believe in. Alcohol, staying away from alcohol, drugs, tobacco, you know, stuff like that. Obviously, that can, you know, help you be happier. There's science to back that up. And so once you realize that there's a lot of, you know, obviously there's a lot of goofy stuff. And maybe Joseph Smith wasn't, you know, I'm here to say maybe Joseph Smith wasn't a real prophet. I don't know. He probably wasn't. He probably made it all up. I don't know. And I don't care. Because what the church teaches now is those things that I already listed. And if you can't look past kind of the weird parts of it, then, you know, that's your loss, I feel like. And I'm not saying Mormonism is the only religion. I'm talking about all religions, because people bag on all religions. But Mormonism just gets the brunt of it, and I see a lot of it, and I am one, so I felt like it was my place to talk about it, because there's not really any Mormons that will, you know, talk like me, and, you know, have a dialogue for some reason. I just don't see a lot of it. But yeah, so that's a real stance from a real life Mormon. And I just wanted to talk about that for a while because I felt like it was important and I wanted to get it off my chest. So, you know, just love everyone, man. I love everyone. You know, I'm not bagging on anybody. Just have a good time. Read some good novels. I'm going to start reading Louis L'Amour books. Listen to some good music. It's fall. Have a good time with some good friends, you know. Just be kinder. Be kinder. Help others as much as you possibly can. Do you have anything to say, Tyson, before we wrap this podcast up? Very wise. That was really, you know, really smart stuff, Tyson. That's it for this podcast. I told you it was going to be pretty short. We're hitting about 40 minutes, but I'll talk to you guys next week. Hopefully it'll be a lot better of a show. Hopefully we'll have a co-host. You know, obviously we have Tyson on this week, but yeah, so thanks for listening. Drop a like, drop a subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Love you. Have a good week. What's up? Hello? Come in. Oh, hey, what's up?
What? Did you just record a podcast by yourself?
You weren't supposed to see this.
You're recording a podcast without me?
What do you mean?
How fake can you be?
That's the show, everybody.